Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another beautiful day in Nova Heights. But that's primarily because I turned the weather options off. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Welcome to another speed build. Today we are welcoming hippos into our Africa section of Nova Heights. Enjoy! Today's show is brought to you by patience, because I had to have some to finish this one. As you'll see, as we get a little farther into the build, I created an entire habitat and then realized it was too small. So it's kind of like two for the price of one, and the price was free. Our goal with this habitat was to build a underwater viewing area primarily, so that way people could view the wonderful hippos. Now, prior to building this, I'd only ever built little habitats in sandbox mode for pygmy hippos, not realizing that pygmy hippos were a different species of regular hippo. Not sure how I overlooked that. And when I put the big hippos in here, I was caught off guard. So I needed to make things a lot larger. But it was still a good lesson learned, and it was still a good build, so I've added it into this video. Once again, I am using one of my favorite techniques, which is using the waterproof glass as a barrier for water. I love underwater viewing areas. I think they're so cool, especially even in real life. They're really great, but the ability to make underwater areas in Planet Zoo using this glass is really cool, especially if you are like me and you have issues with terrain building. Then you definitely want to use this hack whenever you need just to build like a quick little pool. I've also used the waterproof glass for building like mini pools. I one time built like a little trough using the glass, making a square out of it and then filling it up. So it's a versatile hack, and definitely one you should give a shot out. I believe there are lots of YouTube videos out online that can help you. Maybe I'll make one day. I just don't know if I'm qualified yet to teach, still kind of learning, but I hope you enjoy. So I did use an abundance of rocks again, but I really enjoyed the rocks and just having rock walls. I think, in real life they don't use actual rocks a lot of the time. It's, concrete, whatever. And so a lot of areas, especially in zoos I grew up in, had areas where you would go in and you thought you were like in like a little cave, but you weren't really in a cave. You were actually, just in this created rock structure with these viewing windows into these beautiful habitats. So that's definitely the look I was going for here. Originally, this was only going to be a habitat that you could just look into from the bottom. As you will see throughout the build, we do decide to give people the option of looking in other places, and maybe we can change that a little bit later on as well. I do build a house for them later, and that kind of messed up my pathway a little bit, which is probably why I decided to go this other direction and give them more space. So all things to bear in mind while you're watching this. This is not the picturesque perfect habitat, but if you are looking to build or just some creative ideas on how to have little walk-through areas for your people and your guests, this is cool. You will need to have things down there to entice the guests to come down, because a lot of times they'll just walk right by it. Now, something that I am constantly messing up is not gauging the size of the animal before I build a habitat, which is exactly what happened here. Like I said, I built an entire habitat and then redid the habitat because it was too small. So if you have any statues, or if I actually have started building a little bit of the habitat. I will do enough to get the barrier around, I will then purchase the animal, place them in there, and kind of move them where I would like them to stand, and then I'll pause the game. At that point, if you pause it, you're able to delete the barrier, nothing happens to the animal. It actually makes it a lot easier to design around them. Also, when you are trying to build climbable areas for different animals, remember that different animals climb differently, and that's something that's been really hard for me to learn. So I have been building a different habitats on my Twitch stream, and for example, we just did the lemur habitat. Well, they can pretty much climb and jump on anything. You know, they don't need a special pathway to go up. But these hippos, for example, they are very selective of the areas that they can actually go up. So you'll notice later on when we're building, the rocks have to be perfect, the ground has to be perfect. If it's too steep, they won't go up. And that's also something I was noticing as I was building this, is that I was running out of room to make slopes go up gradually. So something else to bear in mind, depending on your animal and what their physical abilities are, you know, Frontier and Planet Zoo have done a really good job at making these animals realistic, and that also means that they can't just climb on anything. You know, a hippo in real life is not jumping onto rocks. I wish these ropes were, I guess, bendable or manageable. I wish you could change the length of them, and I wish you can change the curvature of them. For example, this one, it's just a curved rope and it has to fit in between two spaces. I think it would be really cool if I could decide how long I needed the rope, just in case it wasn't long enough. And then also, maybe just letting that rope go hang down like it naturally would. If that's too much, then maybe we could have an option to just move the rope where we think it should go. So that would be a really cool thing to see in the future. Maybe I'll suggest it, maybe it's already been suggested, but I would love to see something like that. It'd be really cool, and it would also open up the doorways to a lot of new designing. A lot of people like to create different like tunnels and walkways for the animals that go over the guest, and it gets kind of limiting whenever you don't have, when you only have specific types of tools to work with, you know?
Now, I took my own advice and I added some of the actual hippos. You can see there are, I think, 2 or 3 of them right there. And that was just to get the feel of where their size. So already I can see that the water area is way too small. If I had the settings turned on, their wellness and happiness would probably be down because it wouldn't be enough area for them to swim in. So since that feature is turned off, I don't necessarily need to worry about how much water area they have, but I definitely would like more than just this. So I was also having some issues with the keeper gate. For some reason, they kept saying like the terrain was messed up, it wasn't working. So I tried a few things, and we do eventually get it, but that was something that I was confused about, and I definitely have been spending more time trying to figure out where these issues lie. I think it may have something to do with the fact that we started off the viewing area so low, and you know, not quite sure, don't quote me on it, but it's definitely something we can figure out in the future. In the meantime, I think it'd be really fun to learn a little bit about these beautiful hippos. I've done a little bit of digging and have found some really interesting articles and websites and some different conservation projects that you may be interested in. One thing that I really have enjoyed about hippos is that if you're familiar, they actually have a famous hippo at the Cincinnati Zoo. If you remember Fiona, she was a young hippo. She's older now, not by much, but she was an internet sensation, absolutely adorable. I think another zoo just had a young male hippo who I think is going to become really popular. I love them. They're so adorable, so cute. So I think, I don't know, I just love seeing little baby hippos. So I actually went to different websites, one of them being the Cincinnati Zoo website, to learn a little bit about their hippos and some different programs that they have. On the website, I actually ran into the Uganda Conservation Foundation, which has a project called the Waterways Project, which helps to protect these hippos from poaching. They are poached for their ivory that can be found in their teeth and also for the meat on their body. So because of the poaching, they are considered vulnerable, and there are less than 200,000 hippos left in the wild. Now, they can be found in parts of Africa, usually between rivers and lakes. They are considered very aggressive and contribute to more than 2,500 deaths per year for humans. Um, so that's a large number. So stay away. They are very territorial. Um, Even though they are responsible for a lot of deaths, they are mostly herbivores. So they don't really eat meat. The reason that they have caused so many deaths is more of being territorial. If you kind of get in their way, they are very quick to protect their area. They have this thing they call the Hippo Yawn, which is where they can basically open up their jaw to about 150 degrees. It looks like a giant yawn, but it's actually a sign of aggression, usually because of territorial purposes. Some other little fun facts about hippos: they can hold their breath for about 5 minutes underwater, maybe more or less, before they need to resurface, and they eat a little bit more, probably I would say more than 70 pounds of grass a day. So I believe they feed on short grass, which is found like on the riverbeds and stuff in Africa. Um, Very interesting. I love that um, animals like elephants and hippos are such powerful and strong animals, and they live off of vegetation. I think that's really fascinating, really cool, um, and I mean, just really interesting, you know? I will make sure to link the different conservation efforts in the description below so you can check them out, as well as the Cincinnati Zoo's website in the description below. Check it out. Very interesting. They have a lot of great information on there, and yeah, just an interesting read altogether. As I mentioned earlier, we had built the Hippo hut, but it needed an upgrade. So I decided to keep the Hippo hut, open the back part of it, and just create the Hippo house. This is really cool because from a guest perspective, you kind of see the Hippo house, but really you just see the hippos go into this little wooden hut and they get to enter their little Hippo house that was made for them just to rest and relax. One thing I would do differently is that um, these animals in the game are designed to go where their food is, where their enrichment is. So I had put their food and enrichment in the hippo house, whereas I should have put it outside a little bit more so they would spend more time outside. I do believe their tire gets pushed out into the water, so that's not an issue. But yeah, if you want, put your food and your enrichment somewhere that people are going to see so that way you can get your animals into those great viewing areas. The look I was going for the Hippo House was just kind of a little bit of realism. You know, a lot of zoos will have their area for their animals will be separated by multiple gates. So in real life, like in the Planet Zoo, if a keeper wants to feed the animals, they don't need to do anything but just enter. They could, I mean, literally they're like hanging out with the lions and tigers, you know. They wouldn't do that in real zoos. Risky for risk purposes. At most zoos they wouldn't do that, and they actually have different types of gates and stuff that they would use to make sure that the animals were in certain areas just to protect everybody. I kind of wanted the feel for that. You know, here they have a gate separating the keepers from the hippos. It was just to give it a little bit of realism, not to be too perfect just yet. You know, like I said, still learning on how to do the realism. We're getting there, but I did want to add like the door so that it just really looked like an actual building. So what I did was I went into the workshop. I did find some pieces uh, made by uh, made by somebody who's just made a really cool water treatment um, area, and I pulled pieces off of that to create like air conditioning units, just things that made it look more realistic. I used the pieces. It's called the water treatment piece. It is from a user named Lukas070, and it can be found in the workshop. Check it out. It's an actual really cool piece that they made, and I just kind of broke it down and took the pieces from it that I wanted to use for this build. I'll also put their name in the description below so you can check it out and see if you want to use it for yourself. Now, I did have a little issue because it came to having this building look nice. I didn't want to not put a corner on there, and as you can see, the corner on the right side is like just right on top of our pathway, and it's it's like eye level with the guest, and I'm like, well, that's not safe. Um, you know, we wouldn't want that for our guest. So what can I do to change that? I put a lot of rocks on there. It made the path a lot smaller. You know, I talk about trying to make the paths a lot bigger, and still, I have not taken my own advice. It's something that I'm trying to remember when I start. But it took me so long to get the path and the viewing area set. I was like, I can't start over. I can't change this. You know, I was having so much trouble with the keeper gate. So we kept it. We used some rocks. We covered it up. So that way the outside looked realistic. We're adding the food and everything in here so the inside looks more realistic. I'm very happy with the way this turned out. I don't think I spent as much time on any other habitats animal house than I did with this one, and so just really happy with the way that it turned out. If you have a hippo habitat house that you really love, link it down in the comments below, or take pictures, screenshots, whatever. I would love to see it. I love seeing animal houses. I think they're really cool, you know, like a very creative way to add a little bit of extra realism to your game. For enrichment, the hippos have a lot of items that they can use. Reminder, if you are in the game, go to habitats, click filter species hippos. It will tell you everything that they need to have a happy hippo life in your habitat. Some things are like the mud bath, the plant screen, large tire. For their habitat enrichment, for food enrichment, they can use the large barrel feeder, the hanging grazer feeder, the melon feeder, just a few things. And then it also will tell you like what things they have to use to eat. So they can use the food trough, the water trough, and the water pipe as ways to consume food. So utilize that filter. Now, pretty much the remainder of our speed build is going to be adding foliage and rocks, and of course trying to do making the rocks set up to where these hippos can easily navigate through their habitat. Once again, it's different for every animal, so make sure to click on the heat map. It'll be, I believe, the second option from the left, and it'll be traversable area for your animals. You'll see it in a second. It'll make everything gray, and it'll show the blue areas where your animals can go. If your animals can't go somewhere, just click that piece, move it a little bit, let it refresh. You can figure it out. If you have the game paused, it will not automatically refresh. I do believe you need to press play again, but use that tool so that way you can get the best out of this. I was having a bad habit of building these large habitats and putting everything down and then finding out that my animals couldn't go to many places. So something good to do while you are building the game. Remember, if you're not paused, animals are still going to age. They're still going to have offspring. So if that's something you want to slow down, make sure you're pausing the game when you're doing all of this. So there's not too much time left in our speed build, so I did want to share some fun little facts that you can find in the Zoopedia about these hippos. So Zoopedia fun facts, straight from the Zoopedia. Check it out. The closest living relatives are whales and dolphins. They have skin that's approximately 6 centimeters thick and secretes a red substance that acts as sunscreen. We already talked about the Hippo Yawn and the number of people they kill a year, making them the most dangerous large animal in Africa. And finally, they spend their daylight hours in the water to keep cool, and then they come out at night to graze and find food. Here's a weird and interesting fun fact. They can travel up to 5 kilometers, and to help them find their way back to the water, they will defecate near the water so that way they can smell their way back. So nothing like finding your way back home with help of a stinky bathroom, you know? So it is finally time to wrap up this speed build. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please let me know below. Like, comment, subscribe, all the good YouTube stuff. Check us out on Twitter and Twitch if you enjoy streaming and just goodies. We're going to finish up with some fencing, and then I'm going to add some beautiful cutesy patootsy clips of amazing hippos in action. I hope you enjoy. If you have any clips you'd like to share, once again, just let us know. Tag us on Twitter or wherever you like to tag. You know. I do hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope you have a blast building some wonderful animal habitats and learning about some of the most amazing creatures that we have on this planet that we have to protect. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.